Remember the boy Madonna whisked from a Malawian orphanage 16 years ago? Now curls pinpoint free kicks for Benfica's elite youth squad, commands New York's fashion runways, and runs a premium online guitar school from a neon-lit attic studio, all before his 20th birthday. One spontaneous act of uncompromising compassion yanked David Banda from the brink of pneumonia-ridden anonymity and hurled him into a life so multi-layered that tabloids can't keep pace. Tonight we're spelunking, into an 18-year odyssey that vaults from mud brick villages to marble foyers, from courtroom showdowns to Champions League caliber training grounds, and from whispered adoption rumors to big stage guitar solos. Buckle up and ask yourself, how far can a single decision echo when love, grit, and relentless ambition all collide? Flash your mind back to October 2006. Home of Hope Orphanage sat beneath a pitiless Malawian sun, its corrugated tin roofs clattering like cymbals whenever warm gusts swept the dry season dust through cracked windows. Inside cramped wards, volunteers alternated between spooning rice porridge to listless toddlers and dabbing sweat from their own brows with frayed towels that never fully dried. Amid the din, a skeletal 12-month-old named David Banda lay swaddled in a threadbare United Nations relief blanket, ribcage fluttering against the cotton in a desperate rhythm that doctors warned could fail at any moment. He hadn't taken a full breath for days, pneumonia clogging his tiny lungs, and the orphanage's entire antibiotic supply amounted to a single bottle of amoxicillin rationed drop by drop. Madonna had flown in, expecting to photograph fundraising projects for her charity, Raising Malawi, but the instant her shadow fell across David's cot, time bent. She felt the heat of his fever against her forearm and heard an almost imperceptible whimper that hit her with more force than any stadium roar. Schedules dissolved, camera flashes ceased, and the world's highest-grossing female touring artist dropped to her knees, whispering, "You stay with me, little man. We're not done yet." In that instant, the woman who had rewritten the playbook on pop provocation rewrote her own life script to include diapers, nebulizers, and the kind of maternal ferocity that would soon collide head-on with international bureaucracy. Ferocity met friction the second her private jet's wheels touched London tarmac. Malawian law in 2006 contained no clear code for foreign adoptions, and global media smelled blood in the policy vacuum. Headlines screamed, "Star baby shopping." Op-eds hinted at cultural theft, and human rights attorneys positioned themselves as gatekeepers of ethical guardianship on every cable news panel. Days turned into months of courtroom chess in Lilongwe, where Madonna's legal team hauled in crates of paperwork only to confront another procedural wall erected overnight. Protesters, some funded by rival NGOs, waved placards accusing her of short-circuiting due process. Yet inside those echoing legal chambers, David Banda, David's father, a maize farmer earning less than $50 a year, told a story the world's microphones often clipped for soundbite drama. His wife had died days after childbirth. He'd trekked miles beneath blistering sun to surrender his baby boy to the orphanage, not out of neglect, but out of a desperate hope that someone, somewhere, could keep him alive. When judges asked if he understood adoption's permanence, he replied, "My son deserves a chance to breathe." Against a backdrop of outraged editorial columns, Yohane's words settled like a gavel strike. Final approval landed in 2008, but victory didn't feel like champagne and confetti. Instead, it felt like buckles clicking on a car seat as a 2-year-old with fresh vaccination bandages on both thighs gazed wide-eyed out a cabin window at clouds he'd never imagined. London greeted him with cold drizzle and flashbulbs. The Sikone townhouse greeted him with marble floors, in-house tutors, and a laminated chore chart taped to the sub-zero fridge. Madonna refused to let opulence mutate into entitlement. Every morning began with 10 minutes of guided breathing. Homework, meditation, and plates washed by the very hands that ate from them reinforced that message. Discipline wasn't a punishment. It was scaffolding for dreams yet to declare themselves. Dreams declared themselves in the form of a battered leather football David discovered wedged behind storage trunks in the townhouse attic. He kicked it down hallways, leaving scuffed constellations Madonna refused to paint over. "Evidence," she said, "of momentum." Lourdes, the eldest, introduced him to vintage Vogue spreads, where athletes posed like Greek gods, embedding the idea that sport and artistry were cousins. Rocco turned the backyard into an obstacle course of laundry baskets and yoga blocks, timing David's footwork with a referee whistle he'd won at summer camp. Mercy, sharing Malawian roots, became a midnight ally, practicing secret handshakes that blended village claps with hip-hop slides. When twin sisters Stella and Esther Razare joined in 2017, the Banda clan became a living mural of global adoption possibilities, bonded not by DNA strands, but by the unspoken vow to live together or not at all. By age 9, David was sleeping with shin guards strapped on, muttering goal celebration ideas in his sleep. Madonna recognized the symptom, obsession, because the same fire once drove her to tape makeshift ballet bars to apartment walls. Instead of brushing off soccer as a childhood whim, she reinforced it. Youth League coach Trevor Adair dissected his stride and announced potential Premier League pace, raw as unmined cobalt. That appraisal set off a logistical domino effect. Dawn sprints in Hyde Park, nutrition logs pinned next to family chore charts, weekly Zoom sessions with sports psychologists and visualization techniques. Household bedtime moved 30 minutes earlier. Screen time halved. Even Madonna's touring schedule wove through David's weekend fixtures like a tour bus, threading city traffic. By age 9, David was sleeping with shin guards strapped on, muttering goal celebration ideas in his sleep. Madonna recognized the symptom, obsession, because the same fire once drove her to tape makeshift ballet bars to apartment walls. Instead of brushing off soccer as a childhood whim, she reinforced it. Youth League coach Trevor Adair dissected his stride and announced potential Premier League pace, raw as unmined cobalt. That appraisal set off a logistical domino effect. Dawn sprints in Hyde Park, nutrition logs pinned next to family chore charts, weekly Zoom sessions with sports psychologists and visualization techniques. Household bedtime moved 30 minutes earlier. Screen time halved. Even Madonna's touring schedule wove through David's weekend fixtures like a tour bus, threading city traffic. But even inside Benfica's gated compound, fame leaked through like floodwater. Tabloids stationed photographers at training grounds, snapping grainy telephoto shots, then overanalyzing foot placement as proof of future superstardom, or future flop. Online trolls labeled him a tourist riding a private jet to practice. David's rebuttal unfolded between chalk lines. A 20-yard sprint record toppled, a curling free kick that kissed underside crossbar, a defensive trackback that salvaged a 1-0 win over Porto's academy. Coaches began referencing him in film study sessions as the gold standard for transitional runs. Older players who once snickered at his pedigree now tapped his shoulder for recovery tips. Doubt didn't evaporate, but respect diluted it enough for David's confidence to breathe. Even as football consumed daylight hours, music took hold of twilight. Between stadium fixtures, Madonna's Madame X tour rehearsals filled Lisbon warehouses with reverberating bass. One evening, David idly picked up a Gibson SG left atop an amp, fingers stumbling through the blues scale by ear. Stage technicians froze. Within minutes, he was riffing a raw but urgent melody that draped itself seamlessly over the tour band's groove. Backstage crew started leaving guitars in his path like breadcrumbs, and he followed, devouring YouTube jazz lessons after homework, eyes darting between chord charts and tactical soccer diagrams as though both were dialects of the same language. Fashion seeped in next, almost osmotically. Lords had begun repurposing 1990s corsets into avant-garde tops, and Madonna's wardrobe storage looked like a museum wing curated by a maximalist angel. David absorbed silhouettes while tying bootlaces, learning that confidence could stand on a runway as firmly as on a penalty spot. Off-White's casting agent slid into Madonna's DMs after spotting David's street-style photos on Instagram. Fast forward to New York Fashion Week 2025. David glided under spotlights wearing a plaid collar vest, pleated trousers, chunky earrings, and nonchalant flip-flops that made couture critics sputter. He didn't just walk. He narrated each step with the same rhythm he used on the wing. Shoulders relaxed, eyes locked dead ahead, creating a hush that replaced skeptical murmurs with audible gasps. Back in Lisbon, household dinners morphed into culinary passports. Madonna insisted on Roots and Roots evenings where each child researched a cultural tradition and presented it TED Talk style before dessert. David's slideshows compared Malawian rhythms to Portuguese, concluding both art forms were love letters written by people to places they refused to leave behind. Design houses learned quickly that David was no silent mannequin. At an Off-White innovation lab, he proposed upcycling wax print cotton scraps into limited edition jackets, whose QR codes mapped the supply chain from West African market stalls to Milan runways. LVMH executives initially raised eyebrows, then scribbled notes. Rumor has it a 2026 capsule collection will list DB as co-architect of its sustainability blueprint. leveraging blockchain and artisan co-ops in equal measure. Philanthropy scaled in parallel. In 2024, David co-designed a Benfica third kit inspired by Malawian lake patterns. Proceeds installed solar arrays at 3 rural clinics, dropping operating costs by 70%, empowering vaccine refrigerators for the first time. Instagram flashed images of David on clinic rooftops, safety harness secure, tightening bolts alongside local electricians while a matchball bounced at his feet waiting for break time. He followed that with pop-up soccer clinics for Lisbon refugee children, teaching stepovers while casually translating drills among English, Portuguese, and Chichewa. Entrepreneurial spark erupted into Banda Guitar Live, an online masterclass that opened bookings with the audacious stipulation 5-lesson minimum, $200 an hour, and a willingness to turn scales into storytelling. Sessions stream via a custom platform that flashes chord diagrams synced to LED backlights pulsing behind David. Assignments ask students to fuse cultural instruments, kalimba, sitar, banjo, into original riffs. Within a month, slots sold out through September. Reviews praised the teaching style, equal parts Zen monk and stadium rocker. Madonna's parenting evolved with corporate precision. Quarterly Sakone summits convene every child, each presenting a slide deck titled Goals, Habits, Wild Dream. Metrics matter. David tracks sleep variability, key pass accuracy, and guitar speed drills measured in notes per minute. If a target slips, the family dissects root causes between forkfuls of Nana-style ravioli. Success earns symbolic badges printed on the household 3D printer and a day trip of the child's choice. Recently, David chose a silent retreat hike along Portugal's Sintra trails to practice breathwork away from Wi-Fi. Entrepreneurial spark erupted into Banda Guitar Live, an online masterclass that opened bookings with the audacious stipulation 5-lesson minimum, $200 an hour, and a willingness to turn scales into storytelling. Sessions stream via a custom platform that flashes chord diagrams synced to LED backlights pulsing behind David. Assignments ask students to fuse cultural instruments, kalimba, sitar, banjo, into original riffs. Within a month, slots sold out through September. Reviews praised the teaching style, equal parts Zen monk and stadium rocker. Madonna's parenting evolved with corporate precision. Quarterly Sakone summits convene every child, each presenting a slide deck titled Goals, Habits, Wild Dream. Metrics matter. David tracks sleep variability, key pass accuracy, and guitar speed drills measured in notes per minute. If a target slips, the family dissects root causes between forkfuls of Nana-style ravioli. Success earns symbolic badges printed on the household 3D printer and a day trip of the child's choice. Recently, David chose a silent retreat hike along Portugal's Sintra trails to practice breathwork away from Wi-Fi. Social life remains vital insulation. A teammate invites him to family cookouts where grandmothers ladle traditional soup and seek advice on English pronunciation. A spoken word poet friend drags him to downtown open mic nights where he recites verses about identity, while hand drums echo beneath each stanza. Saturday mornings feature rides on vintage streetcars, custard-filled pastries rated out of 10, and fiery debates over whether rhythm begins in the ankle or in the soul. In the glow of his bedroom studio, David builds tracks so hybrid they shatter genre labels. Trap-style hi-hat patterns climb over African thumb piano melodies, while haunting guitar lines sample a neighbor singing as she waters balcony flowers. A loop of Malawian schoolchildren clapping becomes the track's heartbeat. Visiting producers leave muttering comparisons. Rap meets stadium soccer with guitar pedals, yet none can quite define the sound. Profits from the forthcoming EP are earmarked for arts scholarships in Malawi because, as he loves to tweet, privilege should multiply opportunity. Mental health keeps the whirlwind grounded. Sports psychologists coach him through visualization drills, where passing lanes appear like moving shapes. Therapists teach boundaries for social media storms. Meditation apps log 200 straight days of mindfulness. Above his desk hang 2 gold-painted reminders, earned, not given, and carry 2 flags. Sunday nights enforce a technology blackout. No screens, only board games, marathon chess, or story circle readings from each sibling's journal. Online authenticity drives his audience. David turns down sponsorships that cannot prove ethical supply chains. He would rather post a sweat-drenched training drill with 30,000 likes than a glossy sneaker ad with 3 million. Followers label him the algorithm rebel, a title he embraces by sharing unfiltered rehearsal clips, transparent charity budgets, and quick vocabulary challenges that still rack up millions of views. Philanthropy keeps scaling like a finely tuned startup. After hosting high-energy clinics, He partnered with a biotech group to bring gravity-fed water filters to 10 Malawian schools, cutting waterborne illness by 40%. Quarterly impact reports on his website are color-coded and fully footnoted, so donors can trace every dollar. A scholarship fund at his school now covers 4 full tuition spots for girls, each recipient mentoring younger students to keep the cycle alive. Future plans fill a journal titled Next 10 Years, its leather cover scarred by countless flights. Short-term goals: earn a professional contract with the reserve team, release a 4-song EP fusing blues with African rhythms, and ace his final exams. Medium-term: co-found a fashion tech incubator linking African textile cooperatives with European luxury houses, then open a renewable-powered football academy in Malawi that doubles as a community arts hub. Long-term dreams include running for Global Soccer Federation president on a sustainability ticket or winning an Academy Award for Best Original Score, whichever sinks first with his boldest vision. Mentors surround him at each turn. A legendary midfielder breaks down passing angles, a renowned fashion stylist critiques asymmetrical hems, and a top music producer emails bass compression tips after midnight sessions. David replies with voice memo thank yous. Humility isn't an act, it's a strategy. Every lesson absorbed becomes one more edge in whatever arena he enters next. Criticism hums like steady background noise. Soccer commentators insist privilege shelters him. Fashion critics scoff at skirts paired with cleats. Music purists eye genre-bending children of superstars with suspicion. David screenshots the harshest remarks into a folder labeled Fuel, revisiting it on exhaustion-filled mornings to squeeze out an extra sprint or polish a chord change. He's learned that resilience is renewable when every insult becomes kinetic energy. His life reframes global adoption debates. Skeptics warn of lost heritage, yet his bilingual skills, dual calendar birthdays, and yearly village visits prove culture can be actively preserved. He now serves on advisory panels with adoptee advocates, pushing for travel grants and mentorship programs. Lawmakers have quoted his testimony while drafting new international adoption guidelines, proof that one former orphan can influence policy before he's old enough to rent a car in the United States. Picture the darker timeline. Pneumonia wins, Madonna retreats under public pressure, and gatekeepers stamp no on every plea. The boy with a striker's instinct, designer's eye, and guitarist's soul would vanish into statistics, and rural clinics would gamble on failing power. Instead, because one woman refused to back down and one nation finally said yes, we watch a young man turn opportunity into social capital with every sunrise drill and midnight chord progression. Now tell us, which chapter struck you hardest? The hospital scare, the relocation gamble, the solar-powered clinics, or the leap from dressing room to runway? Add your voice below, challenge assumptions, and share the story with anyone who doubts that one fearless decision can ripple across countries and industries. Tap subscribe, ring the bell, and stay tuned for David Banda's next breakthrough. Until then, keep the conversation burning in the comments, where your perspective fuels the story's next act. Thanks for watching. Until next time.